Yo, yo.
We're in the pre-nursery. We're in the
Uh,
Oh, that's so fun.
yeah.
it's
So
it's
That is
about that
awesome.
time.
Congrats.
Good.
it's about that time. How are you guys doing?
Good.
We're good. Good. Been a busy week, but good
Yes.
week. Just
Can you clip this on me
Yeah.
a little bit better because it keeps
I
falling
will.
off? Thank you.
Your clip pretty. Your clip
And
too.
this one or something because it keeps
Oh.
falling off my ear.
I got you.
Okay.
Just to let you know, we're recording, so
Oh,
everything's going.
awesome.
Totally fine. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Y'all are used to this life more than
This-
I am.
This is reality. And in a second, we'll give you some Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Those like the wiggle dance that Wade
Yeah.
is doing.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. So what have you guys been up to?
Let's see. Holy cow. We have
We've been doing like a full brand audit.
Yeah, it's kind of
Really?
like not a rebirth, but just
Yeah.
the next chapter to
Take it to the next level.
taking Get Your Teach On, what we do to the next level, and
Be able to reach more people, serve them better. So we've been working
Yeah.
with some friends who just happen to be genius business analysts, and we've been kind of combing through everything, and
leveraging things that
learning and
we should be doing already.
reevaluating, and
Yeah, getting rid of things that don't serve a purpose, and
yeah,
you name it.
yeah.
You know,
What made you guys want to kind of pivot that direction?
I mean, I think that we have just recognized that we have served a certain type of teacher specifically. And so we really want to grow and be able to serve all teachers. And so part of that growth is recognizing that we can't just serve people who are like minded like
Right,
us, but
exactly.
that teachers serve in lots of different ways. And so we've just really been kind of reevaluating, getting some things lined up. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this 2020 year has just made us kind of sit still, but also um, forced us to be innovative and think differently
Yeah.
than what we used to in the past, which is a good thing. I mean, the root of who we are and what we do is still there, but I think that's with everything with 2020. 2020 has just taught us many different lessons if we wanted to learn them or not.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. It definitely forced us to learn so many new things, how to pivot where we need to go for sure. No, I almost kind of rebranded my podcast too. I think I don't know if I was telling you, Wade, in the pre talk that we had, but this podcast was really geared towards just photographers kind of.
Right.
There was going to be, different people here and there, but there has been a fire lit that I really want to start touching more people in my industry, just like I'm assuming you guys are kind of wanting to do as well. Because there's just there is more there. There's more conversations to be had.
Right.
And there's just you couldn't change the idea of changing what you're thinking about can't happen unless you kind of pivot towards being more focused on the broader spectrum of things.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's
and that again, that's a lesson for 2020. I think for everybody, including yourself. Like,
we had a lot of tunnel vision before 2020.
Yeah, it was very narrow. It was very. This is who we are. This is what we're doing. But now we're seeing that we're cutting off so many other opportunities, and we're cutting off all these other people who are in the same field as us, and same thing with you, but we're not being intentional about wrapping our head around everything and everyone. So
that's a really good point. Who are those people that you guys specifically want to reach out to that you feel like you haven't reached out to before?
Oh wow, that's a great question.
I mean, before we did this whole really kind of audit and just really not even so much that is technically professionally what it's called, I guess, is an audit. But for us it was just really I mean, kind of scary.
It was more of a review.
But really it was just kind of a let's stop, let's things that we never have time to do, let's really stop and think about our impact, let's really stop and think about who it is that we're impacting and what we're trying to get them to do. And I really struggled finding an answer to who we were. I mean, teachers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But when we got to the what are we trying to do part, I mean, I specifically, Wade too, I think, but he can speak for himself, but really started recognizing that so much of who I am got tied up in the work that I do. And while there are a lot of teachers who are like me and who teach in similar ways,
Yeah.
really recognizing that, what we want to do is create innovative educators, right? But the way to innovation can look so many different ways and in so many different styles and so many different personalities. But just because somebody does it differently doesn't mean that it's not innovative
Right.
in its way. And so we just started really recognizing that, wow, we have really limited just our messaging to, again, kind of fit my style
Mm-hmm.
of educator. And
Yeah.
so that was really powerful for me, because I'm like, wow, like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there are just so many people that we can continue to learn from and grow from if we broaden our horizons and not just stay in this one kind of model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when Hope was thinking, when we were doing this, and when Hope was literally thinking out loud, um, I knew exactly what she was going to say, and I saw what was happening, but I didn't say anything. And she said it herself. She said, "We've been pushing and we've been talking to and we've been reaching out to people like myself, which is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But you're cutting off so many other people, and it wasn't necessarily like that was the intention. It was just you just
Or
get
that I
wrapped
think
up
that
into it."
everybody should teach like
Right.
me. I don't think that.
No, and
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
and then we started thinking about, what does our Instagram look like? What does our social media look like? What do our pictures
What
look
is
like?
our
What does our
messaging?
messaging look
Yeah.
like, sound like? And we're like, holy cow, this is for just this type of person.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, we have a philosophy, we have something that we
We
are
have a
known for. We have a
foundation.
foundation. We have our personalities, and that's never going to change. Like, we're always going to be high energy, colorful, energetic. This is who we are. But
Wade's energy
looks different
looks
than
totally different than
and
mine.
when we really started diving into it, we came to the understanding of, what is a teacher? A teacher, all teachers are servants, no matter what. You're in the business of serving others, of whoever it is. Well, then we got deeper into that, and we were like, well, what does that look like for this person, for this person, for this person, for this person? So, for example, Hope would identify as a magician. Like, that's how she serves. That's how she creates those fantastic lessons. That's how she provides experiences for the adults and the kids. For me, I'm more of the innovator, I guess, if you will. We have creators, we have art. So, and that goes hand in hand with a lot of professions, not just education. So
We actually did this, Bryce. You need to try this. We actually did this with like this deck of cards,
Yeah.
and really picking out like who we thought our brand was and who we thought our, the people that we're trying to serve are, and whether that aligned. And it was just really interesting, because when you start recognizing, does the brand align with the who we're trying to impact? A lot of times that doesn't happen. And so for us, that was the case. And so we were like, wow, we've really got to kind of realign things. So it was really cool.
just a little chiropractic thing that we did there.
Oh my gosh. Have y'all seen a chiropractor before?
Yes.
Oh
We
my
are
gosh.
currently, actually.
We just got back from them
Yeah,
just
we
a
had an
while
appointment
ago.
today.
Yeah, it was great.
Even
Really?
Maverick sees our chiropractor.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know they go that young. Yeah,
Yes.
that's something that I've always wanted to try. People keep telling me it's kind of life changing almost a little bit, how that they can affect you.
Yeah, it's like a long term.
It's a wellness thing.
It's a wellness
So
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a while. And then once you do it, you'll sustain it.
But I will say that we took Maverick when he was an infant, because he had stomach troubles, he had some ear troubles, and I mean, I'm telling you, it made a huge difference. So they even have like chiropractic for peds and like for babies. Yeah. So
it looks completely different.
yes.
Like, it's not, they don't take an infant and crack the infant's neck or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's neat. It's very neat.
Isn't it interesting how like curiosity can kind of like awaken some like like you wouldn't think that something like that exists for children.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, and I think going back, I love how creative you guys are. Like when I've worked with you guys in the past, and I've been a part of y'all's conferences, online conferences and stuff like that, and then got to see you guys firsthand in person when I was working with Bakari a mutual
Right.
friend of ours, redoing that school, and how you guys approach uh, teaching with that creative mindset. I think it was something that I definitely didn't grow up with. That it would have definitely made me more interested in school if you guys were more like, there were more people like you guys around. I would definitely was not a good student growing up.
Same.
Yeah.
I was a horrible student.
Yeah. So then, if you were a horrible student, what made you feel like you needed to be where you are today? Then.
I think it was more of the fact of, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it and why you get into education, and everyone gets into education for a different reason and a purpose. I
Hmm.
mean, my upbringing was horrible. I was abused, I was homeless, I was neglected, but I had two constants in my life. I always go to school no matter what. If you're a child in the United States, you're going to school no matter what. And so that was something that was consistent wherever I went. Looked a little different, but it was always there. And then Jesus was the other component that was always there. So um I wasn't the best of students, but I was a good kid. Like, I wasn't a bad kid, and that was because I felt some type of respect from those teachers and from the school building, that it was just
Hmm.
always there, something that I was lacking in my life. And so, um, when I became of age, I just decided, you know what, I can't be Jesus, so I'm going to become a teacher because that's what I know and that's what I'm
Hmm.
excited about. And it was the idea of being able to give back and to do that, something that, I mean, I thought school was boring growing up. I did not think it was fun.
Same.
And I took that servanthood and I found a different purpose with that, to say, if I were a kid sitting in the classroom, what would I want? Well, I would want a teacher to talk to me like some of my teachers did. I want them to have conversations with me. I would want them to play with me at recess. I would want them to make learning as fun as possible for me, instead of just sit and do worksheets over and over and over again. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's what really drove me. It was kind of what I was lacking as a kid. And I wanted to provide that for children everywhere, and teachers too. It's not that hard. You're an artist yourself. I'm a musician. I love playing music. I was an athlete, and so I think anybody can actually be a teacher if you go in there and you're wanting to serve kids,
Mhm.
but you're
Yeah.
using your gifts and talents to do that, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely interesting that you were aware of that in yourself, and you didn't denounce, education. Like,
Right.
some people might kind of look at how they were brought up and maybe certain school system and be like, that didn't work for me. Why do I need to be a part of something that didn't really work for me? And you
Yeah.
definitely took it upon yourself to be like, well, we can change it. Um,
And that's what we're
and
trying to do.
yeah, yeah, you guys definitely have. I think that you guys are using your platform really well. If people aren't familiar with Get Your Teach On, what's some background on Get Your Teach On?
Yeah, so Get Your Teach On essentially is, we really want to provide teachers with ways to have strategic growth in their classroom, but in a
Hmm.
way that is unique to them. And that's exactly what we've kind of been talking about. And so, all of the professional development that I ever went to as an educator, it's very similar to what we were talking about with students in the classroom. It was something that I had to go to. And to be honest with you, I would leave halfway through, or I would go to 10 minutes and then go somewhere else and actually do my lesson plans or the things that my kids needed, because just none of it spoke to me. None of it was challenging me to do things that made me
Hmm.
uncomfortable, or to think in different ways, or to build my classroom around creating an experience for students. And I
Mm.
knew that's what kids needed, and that's how I taught. And so all of these professional developments were just, standards driven. And ours is standards driven as well, but we really focus on creating an environment that kids want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Not, so we don't want school to be a place they have to be. We want them to want to go to school. And so we can't do that with just standards alone. And not only that, not all kids, are made for college, and not all kids are going to fit in this box called standards. And so much of what we do is serving our students and defining their purpose as
Yeah.
well. And so we said, in order to do that, we have to educate kids in different ways. We have to expose them to art and to music and to STEM and engineering and to science and math and all of the things, because and somewhere in there, I want them to find their interest,
Right.
their go-to
Right.
thing, because that's what's going to drive them. And that'll change as they grow and as they develop. And so we said, there's just not a professional development that speaks to this or that encourages this or that provides resources. And so we started Get Your Teach On, and we have a team of the most dynamic educators who are all very unique and different. Not one of us teaches the same way, but we're all very successful with our students and seeing growth and helping students find their purpose. And so it's really cool because at Get Your Teach On, educators get to come and be the student for the day. And we want to provide that experience for educators where they leave feeling empowered, inspired, motivated, loving what they do, because that is going to have a direct impact on how they teach. And when they have that experience, they want to go back and provide that same experience that they just had for their kids.
Right, yeah.
And so that's kind of what Get Your Teach On is all about, and the mission and what we're trying to do, just to, again, reignite a fire for teachers, make them feel seen, heard, valued, but also give them a community of people that they're surrounded with that will just love on them and celebrate them and cheer them on in this really difficult profession, because it's a really hard profession. I mean, especially, it's always been hard, but especially now that we're navigating this pandemic. And so just being there to serve teachers, that's really our focus.
Yeah, I think that's especially during this pandemic. I'm sure I've had older photographer friends that I've been talking to, and they're like, yeah, I just finished, doing online school stuff with my kid, and it's just kind of like, ooh, man, I feel bad for you, but I'm not in that circumstance just yet. I'm like,
exactly. It's definitely a different world, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are starting to experience that. And one thing that we've heard a lot is exactly what you just said. Like, these people in these other professions, they're having to do the virtual learning with their kids, and while juggling their job or their spouse, or being whatever's going on top of having to be that educational facilitator, which is difficult. I mean, I can't imagine right now what people are going through with kids your friend's age. It's just, it's nuts. It's hard.
My friend's age being, former Sports Illustrated photographers that are probably in their 50s. That's probably what I mean.
There you go.
I say friends my age are definitely, my closest friend's an actor, and he's definitely single and does not have a kid. So, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He's surviving. He's trying to figure out how to survive himself.
Yes, right.
Most of us still are, actually. Yeah.
Right.
Even those of us with kids.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. It's funny whenever I talk about you guys with other people that I know, the best description I bring up is they are celebrity teachers.
It's like, weird, right? It's weird.
Right. Like I growing up, you think of celebrity musicians and actors, of course. And you guys literally have, like, y'all are the celebrity teacher status. And people definitely have come across people who are like, really, that's a thing? I'm like, yes. Like, you should see the people, at these conferences, and how well, like, I haven't been a part of these conferences with you guys yet, but you guys tell me all the time, you should see how this happens.
Yeah.
Did you
go
ahead? I was just gonna say, did you guys imagine that being kind of like a possibility?
I mean, we love our community so much, and they are wild and crazy, and the energy that they bring. I mean, and Bryce, you will see it eventually, because we will all be back at conferences together. But the energy that they have, Dave Burgess, one of our mentors, friends, he published our book, fantastic educator. He describes our educational community kind of like the Deadheads from Grateful Dead.
He does.
To where what Hope and I have done is we've just provided a space for these like-minded teachers to come, celebrate each other, and just get wild and crazy and just have a good time. And it's an awesome responsibility. It's an awesome blessing to be able to provide that space for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of what it is. We're just there with them, celebrating with them, and just uplifting them as much as possible. And it's really cool. Like, that energy that they have when they come in, they take that and they pour it right back into their classroom. And it's definitely, the educational world is a weird subculture thing that you never knew about, that most people
It's like
don't.
like an underground type of thing.
And everything that you're saying is what our Chase, he works with us. You know Chase. Chase has said the same thing. He comes from the entertainment industry with Blue Man Group, but all these people who come from the outside and they come in, you're like, I never knew this thing existed.
Yeah. It's like its own little secret world.
Yeah.
I mean, but honestly, like what makes me, and we were actually having this conversation the other day when we were doing our whole brand audit and really kind of aligning things. What makes me the happiest is just being a teacher. Like my happiest self is just teaching, and specifically in a classroom. But now that I get to do this for other educators, and the fact that something that I have to say or an experience that I've had or a story that I have experienced inspire someone is just truly humbling. And we will stand in a line for however long to make sure that we are able to talk to every single person that comes to our conference. And just because, again, not even because I'm like, oh wow, look at all the people who want to talk to me, because we do not see it that way at all. We see it as like, these are our friends, these are our people, this is our community. Yeah. Like we are just as excited to see them as they are to see us. And it's just kind of,
I just
what's
imagine,
so cool about it.
I just imagine that we're all co-teaching together.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting someone down the hall.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool. And it's
and I could sit and talk to all of them for hours, teacher talk, but we don't always have that time. But they're just it's just really a cool community. And I think that's what teachers need is a place to belong, a community, because it's a very thankless profession. It's a profession that a lot of people have a lot of criticism and judgment about, but they're not in there doing the work. And so for the people who are doing the work, it's great when we can come together and celebrate each other the way that we should be celebrated.
Yeah, I mean, just even going back to you, Bryce. I mean, we love you to death, but honestly, just thank you for just giving your best effort every single time that we call on you. Like you've never been like, oh my gosh, I've got this coming up. You've always made the effort to share what we're trying to do in education. And you've shared the stories of these educators during this 2020 year, which has been weird, but it's been virtual, but that energy is still there. And you see it, and you have seen it, and you've contributed to that. So from us, we just want to thank you for lending your talents and something that you never even thought existed. I mean, and you bought in right there. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah. I think I love taking on, this is something that I would definitely want to talk to you guys about. I love taking on a new challenge. I think, me coming out of school, I thought I was going to be in like fashion somehow. I had a fine arts background. Thought that, maybe I'd start doing some sort of like Vogue-esque photo shoots and things like that. And I ended up landing in sports. And sports, I didn't say like sports wasn't the thing. I just kind of like, okay, well, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
And it took me down a path that I really love. There are things that I would love to change about it, and that's partly why I do this podcast, or this new part of the podcast. But I think you guys definitely opened up a whole nother can of worms when it comes to learning about something, a whole new industry. I'm really excited for you guys to be, collaborating with me, being that I'm coming from, a creative world, and you guys coming more from an educational world. I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other on both sides of things, because we don't need these old systems anymore, where you're definitely sticking to the rules. I just had a long conversation with somebody before you guys came on about rules. And it's sometimes there's a time to break the rules, because they're just so they don't make sense anymore. And part of you can break rules in a negative light, but I think what you guys are doing is amazing, because you guys are kind of breaking the norm in a much more positive way. Y'all are reaching out to different people. We had a pro wrestler on your guys' last
Thaddeus. Titus. Heck yeah. WWE, Titus O'Neil. There he was.
Yeah,
killing
like
it.
that. Who would have thought, during an education conference, you'd see a WWE wrestler pop up
Right.
on there
That's
giving his
right.
2 cents on education.
That's right.
That's I think that's the type of world that we're living or we're heading towards, and that we should head towards to learn from each other better and be more understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually so funny because people, would ask us, well, why am I going to come to an education conference and not hear from the real educator, from people who are teaching right now? And I'm like, listen, I get it. And we want to provide, educators with strategies for teachers, from teachers. But let's not sleep on the fact that anyone has a story about education and how that impacted them. And that right there could be what we need to be a better teacher to a
Mm.
specific student or to our group of students or to our group of kids. And he just has such an amazing story. And I'm like, anybody who would listen to that and say, I can't attend this conference because it's not a real educator. I'm like, were you like, did you have it
Were
on
you
mute?
there? Do
Because
you have a pulse?
I mean, after listening to him, I was just so inspired and so motivated. First of all, as a reminder of just how important the work
Mm-hmm.
is that we do, but
Mm.
also how important it is to see every student as an individual. And those lessons and those reminders are just as important for me to take away as some kind of strategy or standard driven concept. And those are important too. But yeah, that's all we're all about, thinking outside of the box and like you said, breaking the norms, kind of normalizing being uncomfortable and
Right.
stretching ourselves. And um because today's a different generation and we can't teach
Yeah.
kids today like they were educated 50 or 100 years ago. And
Hmm.
so if things need to change, things need to change. Change must take place. And so to kind of put change into action, you got to do things that are
Yeah,
different.
and that goes, oh my gosh, it transcends just education. It goes
Hmm.
into every profession. Like, I mean, and you were just
Yeah.
talking about it. These systems that have been in place for a long time, these traditions, like, okay, it's a tradition. That means it's been happening for a long time. I mean, I'm not in the photographer world, but I can imagine within the past 5, 10, 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
like every single year is different because new pieces of technology, new ways to look at media. You look at your medium, whatever's coming across the screen. Like you always have to consistently change, and it's scary. What
Yeah.
we do for education is definitely scary for us,
Mm-hmm.
but we believe in it because we look at who we're trying to serve, and we want to do the best we can for those individuals. And again, it transcends education. If you're doing right by what you're trying to do, then you can't go wrong. And you may
Hmm.
break some rules, you may bend the rules a little bit, but if it's all for the greater good, I mean, I'm like, that's what we're here to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think another big word that has been thrown around in um, a lot of material that I've been listening to and a lot of conversations I've been having is intention.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the intention behind what we do has to validate our, I don't know how to best describe it. Like I could go about I personally can go about my podcast in a way that I can say all these things to you guys, bring you guys on you know for the wow factor of education and things like that. But my intention could be, I'm just trying to get, certain eyes on things. And
Right.
nowadays with social media and things like that, we have clickbait and all that
Right.
crazy stuff. But when intention meets, like really good values,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
it can really be amazing to watch what can happen, like with the amount of creativity that can happen in that connection between intention and like true, you know positive values.
Yeah. I
uh
mean, I think
yeah.
that's so true. And I think that really, one thing that we talk about too is intention mixed with authenticity and really showing up in an authentic way for an authentic reason and, being very
Mm,
intentional about those connections. And I think that, that's kind of been a big piece of the relationships that we've established, especially during this pandemic. And I think you're
Yeah.
so right that when people are in the right place for the right reasons, that's where magic happens.
yeah.
And, especially when you're in a room surrounded by a lot of different people and all of those people are in the right place for the right reasons, that's where we can really, just come together and
Mm-hmm.
learn from one another. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what Wade and I constantly seek to do for us, every person that we meet is a connection. Every person that we meet is impacting us in some way. And that's what we also seek to bring to Get Your Teach On, is how we can bring people from different backgrounds and different, different upbringings and learn from one another. And that's a big part of who that community
Just
is
being
too.
authentic.
Yeah.
Be who you are.
Yeah.
Good morals, ethics, and your intent behind that.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
good.
I mean,
That's good.
Authenticity can be, oh, man. I know for me, authenticity is scary because I look at my personality and how much I kind of hid my true self from being like, I mean, I'm pretty sure being around you guys, I haven't necessarily been my true self.
Mm-hmm.
My authentic self is very energetic and talkative, and like I played sports growing up. There was just so much, of that athletic personality in me that was just like so pent up, that I was so scared to kind of let out in settings like, I look at a professional setting like working with you guys or working around other teams or organizations. And I think, you know, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but it took me to kind of just be like, either you be authentic, open up and have these conversations with people, or someone's going to break you and then you're going to end up having those authentic conversations. Too far, I look at time as like really valuable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
I'm one to be like, I'm 28. Like I wanted to be like on top of my game before my 30s. Like I was just so adamant about that. But being authentic, um, if I didn't open up, I don't think I would have reached that. And I think a lot of kids, their potential, especially in school, I mean, it's not just the educational system, but there, I mean, I'm sure you guys see it too. Like a lot of kids themselves, like how much um, that dynamic in the classroom can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you guys? How do you guys kind of counteract that? I wouldn't say tension, but the character or the personality that's happening in the classroom amongst the kids.
Yeah.
Right. I know what you're saying is, yeah. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
For what kids go through.
I mean, the thing about it, education, and especially since I've taught and in the past, is just everything is boxed up into this really pretty thing called standards, where it's got this beautiful wrapping paper and this beautiful bow of what
it's what you're supposed to learn,
of what is what you're supposed to learn, what you're supposed to teach, and what the expectations are for every child.
And it's all the same.
Right. And so, standard really indicates one type of individual. This is a standard for one type of individual. And so, one of the biggest things that I have seen as an educator that has been powerful for me in my classroom and the success of all of my students, and I think the biggest difference between my classrooms and maybe a lot of classrooms, is simple opportunity. Really providing every student with an opportunity to show up as their authentic self. And that's why we're so big about creating experiences for our kids. In our workshops, I show this video actually, of America's Got Talent, go figure, reality television, from me. But it's of this contestant, and his name is Cody Lee. He actually, spoiler alert, ends up winning the entire season, but he is blind and autistic. But so his mom explains that, it's really hard for him to do what everyone else does. But when you put him behind a piano and give him a mic, it is have you seen the video?
Yeah, I think I remember from one of our things that you guys played.
Probably when we were in the car.
Yeah, with Bakari.
And so, it's just unbelievable. Anybody who would hear him play the piano or, hear him sing would call him a creative genius, but those standards would call him a disaster. And so opportunity is what lies between the standard and students being successful. And I think that we have to offer students so much more than just those standards. We have to give them experiences that allow them to identify with music, like I said kind of earlier, and that provides them with an opportunity to really shine and to show their
Be
authentic
who they
self.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah, just be
because
who they are.
that's who Cody Lee is. He is, like I said, a creative, musically gifted genius. But if they had always tried to put him in a box called standards, he would have been labeled as a disaster forever.
And he would have never blessed the world.
Yeah, and so that's true. I mean, my word, that he is a blessing. And so is every human is a blessing. It's just, the opportunity to figure out what it is that they can bring to this world. And that's why I say not every child's meant for college. Not every child's meant to master these standards the way in which, our society has deemed as a scholar. Kids are so much more than that. Kids have so much more to offer than
I mean,
that.
kids and adults. I mean,
Yeah.
we work with some. I mean, we work with some incredible individuals, and we've had a lot of people on our Get Your Teach On team come to us with ideas, and we're like, well, we don't know if that'll work or not, but you know what? Here you go.
Yeah.
And they run with it, and they're excited about it because they're passionate about it, and it's an opportunity for them to be who they are and contribute in a way that they want to contribute. And
Yeah.
I think as adults, we need to allow each other a little bit more freedom to be able to do that and
That's right.
to not fear someone messing up. It's going to be okay. As long as no one dies, it's going to be fine. So, I mean, we just have to love people and
Yeah.
accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. I tell the story that happened recently when I was on a flight. We were coming back from Miami, and there was when you're on a flight now with COVID, you have to wear your mask the whole time. And there was a guy sitting next to me. This is my first time flying on a flight that had like that middle row. Like, it was really cool. I was looking forward to sitting on a plane that had the middle row. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is like. So the guy sitting next to me in the middle row was pretty obviously it was pretty obvious he had like a kind of like an OCD thing going on. And I'm sure during this time people with OCD are going through some things.
Oh, for sure.
And I noticed that before I kind of got myself together and to relax. And I have a big nose, so my mask likes to kind of like fall off pretty easily. And like all the time. And sometimes it's to the point where I don't notice it, and I'm sitting there on my phone completely oblivious that my mask is just down under my nose, and this guy taps me on the shoulder, and I look over and he's like, can you put your mask over your nose? And my reaction was, who does this guy think he is to tell me to put my mask over my face? Like, he's not a flight attendant. He's not a pilot. He's just the dude sitting right here next to me. That was the first thought that I had, the first reaction I had. And it took me a second to kind of like, okay, we obviously observed at the beginning that this guy might have some sort of OCD problem. So he's going to obviously, out of everybody on this plane, notice that I have my mask below my nose. And, it kind of helped me relax a little bit and understand, like, okay, just put your mask up, do your thing, and he'll feel better. You'll feel better. Just move on. And I feel like, going back to what you guys said about giving every kid an opportunity, I think it'd be what do you guys think it would take for not just teachers but the educational system to start seeing the potential in every student? Because I think there's a lot of patience that goes into that. A lot of patience, and especially it depends on the community that you grow up in, the level of patience that you have to kind of go through.
Right.
What do you guys kind of see in that world, and how do you feel like that can change? What do you feel like can breed more potential for kids if they could just understand the kids better one-on-one?
Yeah, it's actually the $1 million question, I think.
I mean, I do think, again, just coming back to this year, I think 2020 has really opened the eyes to what's actually important in education. We have seen schools, districts, administrators, teachers. I mean, they're kind of going back now, but we've seen most of them focusing on the whole child and
Right.
the social emotional part,
Yep.
and not as much the test scores. And I think going forward, I think out of 2020, I definitely think that that's going to be something that resonates with school systems. That hey, there are these issues, there are these inequities that we have just kind of been sweeping under the rug before,
Mm-hmm.
and putting standards to the forefront instead of the whole child.
Yeah.
And the conversation's going around like wildfire right now
Yeah.
with teachers. And when teachers start to talk, people start to listen. And so I definitely think it's starting to change a little bit, but
I mean, I think there's a long way to go, just like with
right.
anything where you're talking about policy and systems that have been in place for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just assessing the whole child,
Mm-hmm.
truly the whole child, and also recognizing, like we talked about, the difference, as far as environment, upbringing, background, and the role that can play. I know that our friend Shivy, we actually just recorded a podcast with him earlier today. But he is a high school teacher. He teaches economics, and his policy has always been that he will allow kids to retest as many times as they need to. And it's not the same questions. It's not like he's just giving them questions to memorize so they can regurgitate the information and pass. But his idea is that, what am I trying to get them to do? Learn the content.
Mm-hmm.
So if it takes them 6 times to retest to prove that they learned the content, I've arrived to my goal. What am I trying to prove by giving them a test one time? And if they fail it, they fail it. What if they had a bad day? What if they were having to work that night to help support their family? What if they had, someone pass away, or they had a life event or a home event that kind of played a role into that? And, then you get into the conversation of people talking about how are you teaching kids work ethic? And again, all of that should be taught in the sense of the whole child. And what is true work ethic, and what are societies, these norms that we've created for society.
Mm-hmm.
And those norms look very different based on race, based on culture. And so I think that there's just so incredibly much that we need to consider that is not being considered in how we really classify a child as successful in the education system. I think it's failing the majority of students. It is teaching the average child, but it is failing a lot of incredibly gifted kids.
Yeah. And I also think, I mean, obviously, and going back to your story and your example, I mean, it translates to what we're talking about now. I mean, it's okay to have those thoughts into your mind on, I mean, and it could be as outrageous as possible. Like you were about to get up and go and fuss that guy out, right? But the same goes true with educators too. Like we get irritated at the end of the day, and those thoughts do come in our mind, but they just enter. We don't let them live there. We think about the individual. We think about what that individual is going through. We think about the whole individual, and we correct it. And again, that was a great example, because I think that's what we have to start doing in education as well, not letting those traditions and those systemic things just live in our heads. And we got to think of outside of the box and think about those kids and what they're going through at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting things, because I remember the thing that you guys actually did not too long ago with Shibi, when we went through that whole societal shift with the Black Lives Matter movement, and y'all took it upon yourselves as 2 white individuals to have that tough discussion. And not many people did that. That was, if they did, some people did it, again, going back to intention.
Right.
But you guys had the right intention, and you guys brought on people from all walks of life that you guys just wanted to learn more from, and how to do better, especially in a time like this where I remember both of you guys realizing things that you hope you cried at one point, like realizing there were things that you kind of had in your mind at one point that were racist. And it's okay to admit that, but when you admit it, how do you change it? It was really amazing to watch from behind the scenes. Again, I always get
you were literally a fly on the wall the whole entire time that
Yeah,
everyone wanted to be.
that's how it is most of the time. I feel like my whole life is going to be, I could write a book just called Fly on the Wall.
You could,
Like
that's hey,
That's
that's a
it.
good
That's
idea.
a
There it
good
is.
idea.
There it is.
The
I
fly
have
that was
so
on
many,
the wall.
I have so many ideas for books. Oh my gosh. But no, it was really interesting to be a fly on the wall during that whole uh, conference that you guys put on. Why did you guys, from your own words, why did you guys feel that it was important to have that kind of conversation?
I mean, the thing about it is that Wade and I have been fortunate to be surrounded by incredible people who have kind of walked us through this work. And we've been doing this work internally and, even in communities of people. But again, very on the hush kind of style. Just because we didn't want to come off as performatives, as
Mm,
know-it-alls, as doing this, to be the white saviors or
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it may be. And so we had done that work, or this work for a while internally. But then we recognized that that's problematic, that is our privilege, allowing us to decide whether or not we speak out on issues, whether or not we bring this to the forefront, whether or not we call this out as Black Lives Matters is not a political argument, it's about lives. And so
mhm,
for us, it really became a time where we feel like we have been given this platform. Which side of history are we going to be on?
Right.
yeah,
And thinking about now that we have a son as well, what do I want Maverick to know one day? What kind of human do I want him to be? And so we just really, first of all, again, this work has always been important to us, but it was time for us to step out and to do the work for others to see. Because at the end of the day, like you've already mentioned, even though we don't always see it in this way, we are a model for many people and for many educators.
I think we denied that to ourselves for a long time
Yeah, like people aren't watching us. They
because
don't.
we didn't want that label, but
mhm,
Yeah,
it was a huge realization during that time
yeah,
period that, hey, we have thousands of people come to our Get Your Teach On conference and that follow Get Your Teach On, and not once has Get Your Teach On said anything,
yeah.
and that's not okay.
Right. And
and
so,
you guys, sorry, I would interrupt you, but you
good.
guys almost kind of, I think in a way, you you both are from the South.
Hmm.
Right.
So you guys both have a platform in the South, and when you guys took on that opportunity to do what you guys did, you had, not only did you have thousands of people that followed you guys, but there was a chance that you guys were losing people,
Oh,
Oh,
and we
we
absolutely.
brought that up.
would,
Thousands.
and
Yeah.
we did,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you were there for that. I mean, we got backlash, we got hate, we got
We were actually having,
yeah.
a virtual conference in the middle of this Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter movement. And we didn't even, none of us knew that it was going to happen.
Hmm.
And, but I think that it was all meant to be that way. I think that was an opportunity
Exactly.
for us to be able to have this platform with a lot of ears, to be able to say, hey, listen, we as educators, we as white educators, this is our work to do. And so, like I said, fortunately, we were able to partner with our good friend Shivi, who has just been for us an amazing friend. And he's a friend to us. He lives in our neighborhood. We've done some things together.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids hang out, and it was just really an opportunity for us to start the learning out loud, to provide a space, for others to begin their learning or to continue their learning, or to feel like they can be, learn within that community as well. And so just a really incredible
Yeah.
opportunity. And we lost thousands upon thousands
But I think
of followers,
uh,
but
Hope and I are Christians, and we live our life by what God's word tells us to do, and it's by faith. And I mean, Daniel, he prayed in public in Babylon, and he knew by praying publicly, there was going to be two options for him. He was either going to be a-okay, he was going to be fine, or he could potentially be killed. And he was thrown that lion's den, but he was still delivered from that. And that's a light well, it's not a lighthearted story. It's a story that makes our situation seem lighthearted
mhm.
because we're not being thrown in the lion's den at the end of the day. And if we live by our faith, and if we live by what God has told us to do, we can't just sit around and not say anything publicly,
Mhm.
because I mean, what are we risking here?
Yeah.
Like a few thousand followers,
Right.
Compared to a thousands and thousands of lives potentially.
Right. Exactly.
So that's where we're at, and that's our heart, and that's our goal, and that's who we are. And it was just it was a blessing to be able to have someone like Shivy just come along with us. And just going back, I mean, we talked about earlier, we provide that space for Get Your Teach On community, and they're awesome, and they're the deadheads of what we do. Well, what did we do for Be About It conference? We weren't leading it. We just said we know how to provide a space, so we're going to provide a space.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And we kind of just sat back and we said, we're here to learn along with you.
Right.
It's funny that you guys keep bringing up the deadhead thing. I think of my uncle whenever you guys bring up that. And how
who doesn't have an uncle? Who doesn't? I know Hope did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely probably like a group of uncles that get together and listen to Deadhead and do their, deadhead things.
Right, they're deadhead. That's a great way to put it. They're deadhead things. They're deadheaded things. That's
very safe. Yes, those things. I definitely wanted to get you guys. What I love about what you guys do is you guys have this platform together. My wife and I have talked about working together in the past. It can be this like battle of personalities in a way. What made you guys feel like it's best for you guys to kind of go in on this adventure together?
I mean, we had taught together for a long time.
Yeah.
So like teaching together, we kind of knew what that looked like. I mean, if Hope was doing something, I would help her in her room. She would help me in my room. So, and we're married. So I think a lot of, I guess, as an organization or as business wise, we already kind of had our responsibilities in our personal life, and they've just kind of transitioned into the professional realm as well, on the respect that way. But this stuff wasn't something that we planned. It just accidentally happened.
Yeah.
This was something that Hope had dreamed up forever. And
here we are.
And here we are.
I mean, but I think that what really is just so cool is that, again, kind of what we've been talking about throughout this whole evening together is that, Wade and I are two completely different people. We educate in two completely different ways. We parent in two completely different ways, but we have the same end goal. We have the same vision, right? And you can have a similar vision and have two completely separate ways of getting there, that really complement each other. And if when you can see past differences, you know how that goes. It's not an easy road to get there, but it complements each other, and it just makes the journey and the impact that much greater when you're seeing it from multiple perspectives. And for people to also see that we have the same end goal in mind, but we're two completely different people, I think that really resonates with educators a lot, because they, see they don't have to just be one way. They can be, teach in their own way, teach in their own unique style, show up as their true authentic selves, but still get from point A to Z. And so I think that's the cool thing about our relationship. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it's all rainbows and butterflies and we never fight and never argue and we never, have those moments and those bad days. And we've worked through therapy together, and we've had couples counseling, and we've, had to put things in place to be able to continue this, because it is hard. And especially when you are in the act of serving other people, that becomes even harder, because a lot of times you serve to where you're empty and then you have nothing left for one another, or the business follows you home, or you never can turn it off. So those are all things that we've experienced, and that we've seen the negative impact of those things, but things that we've also, our good friend Jody Carrington always talks about naming it to tame it. And so we've had to name those things in our relationship to be able to continue to work at this level. And really, once we're able to name those things and start working on those things, it just allows our relationship to become stronger, and also allows, the work that we do together to be stronger.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be respect. I mean, if you're a married couple and you're in business together, number one, you should know each other better than any other business partner that there is. And so you should always, again, goes back to intention. You should always have the best of intentions, and you should always expect the other person is having the best of intentions as well. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go in to work on something with Hope and try to push her buttons on. Why would I try to do that? I know what agitates her, because
He
she's my
knows not
wife.
to rush me.
Yeah,
He knows not to rush me.
And she, yeah. But I hate being late, and I hate not following time, and she knows that too. So you got to meet in the middle somewhere. But but that is literally, that is one example that I guess that's probably where we argue the most or where we used to argue the most. It would be time management. It would be, hey, we got to get this done, and it would just stem off into these other things. It was because her not being rushed is really important to her. Me finishing on time or starting on time is really important to me, and having that conversation on, okay, this is where we are. I'm going to try to do better with this. I get if you run over a little bit, it's fine. I'm not going to freak out. It's going to be, so having those conversations, I think, with a married business partner is definitely important. And
just always, one thing that we always strive to do is, and even more so, Bryce, since we became parents, is to assume the best of one another. Even the way that we parent is two completely different ways. And so I can either sit here all day long trying to tell Wade how he should parent because I want him to be like me, or how he should do things, or I could just take a step back and say, right now Wade's dealing with Maverick, and he's dealing with Maverick the best way that he sees fit. And at the end of the day, we're going to get Maverick from point A to point Z. It's going to be on two different journeys, but we're working towards the same goal. And I think that just really, instead of seeking to correct or seeking to get somebody to do something the way you would want them to do it, just step back and assume the best. And there is a lot of freedom in that. When you can actually put that into practice, there is a lot of freedom of just being able to let go. And I think that, that also builds that strength and that trust and all of the things that are essential.
And just stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to move in on Hope's like merchandise or something. I don't know what, I'm just randomly saying something. I know what my lane is. Hope knows what hers is, and we respect each other's lanes. Now, can I contribute? Absolutely. But I'm not going to go in there and try to say I know what's best, because I know at the end of the day, I don't know what's best.
Yeah.
So respecting the lanes and respecting these responsibilities, I think, goes hand in hand with business and being married too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you guys balance each other out pretty well?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in parenting and business and all the things, I mean, we are a very good balance and complement. But again, that is something that we really had to learn to appreciate about the other.
Yeah, I mean, just learn in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes some learning. But that's what being married's all about.
That's work.
Marriage is hard.
Yes, it is.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's a huge blessing, but it
takes work,
and it should.
It's
anything in life, that's worth it requires work and sacrifice. And so marriage is not exempt from that at all.
Oh, not, yeah, 100% agree with you guys on that, because that's, man, in the career I have, I think I've listened to so many different conversations from other creatives. I bring up a friend of mine's podcast all the time. His name's John Wiley, and it's called Creative AF. And there's people in my industry that come on, talk to him about the mental health aspects of what we go through. And it's mainly a lot of sports creatives, because that's how we all know each other. So that's, I mean, the first people we definitely gravitate towards is the people that are around us.
Right.
And the one thing that always ends up making me pretty much cry every time I listen to an episode is something about a relationship. Because as much as, like, honestly, like, before we hopped on here, my wife and I definitely had like a little confrontation before this, because of how late we were going to stay, or I'm staying up to do podcasts and stuff like that.
We've been there.
Yeah.
She's going to hear this probably a lot later, hopefully. But there is that aspect of things, but I know deep down, what we have is special. And every day I fight for us with what I do.
Yeah.
Every decision I make is for us now. It used to be about me, because as a freelance artist, you're doing things for yourself. You're just trying to survive. But now you're doing it for another person, your significant other, and now kid.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother.
It's a lot. It's not about you anymore.
Oh, I mean, it's not about me, it's not about us, it's about
everybody.
Us with a capital US. It's just,
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. It's it's making it even more special. And it's an amazing feeling. It's a definitely a surreal feeling, because at first you want to be mad, but at the end of the day, you definitely just, it's all love. Yeah, that's what,
It's hard.
since Maverick's been born, how has that affected your business personal relationship? Like, was he born like in the midst of you guys doing Get Your Teach On?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was born in April, and we had our biggest conference to date that we were planning in June. So 2 months later. And so for 5,000 people. And yeah, it was
a lot.
It was very rough. I mean, I suffer with postpartum depression. Wade also had postpartum depression. I know that people think that it's only for females, but it's not.
Explain what that means for people who
Yeah.
don't know what postpartum.
So, postpartum depression is essentially, again, primarily identified in women after they give birth. You know, your hormones take 9 months essentially to build to create this human, and then they crash in about 40 days. And that's just a lot to deal with, on top of being a mom who now has this child who is depending on you to survive, and they require every ounce of every little bit of your attention, especially in those first couple of months. And so I think for me, a lot of mine was hormonal, absolutely, but also just kind of, this is our first child, and so also just mourning the loss of my old life. And I think that a lot of people think, well, how dare you say that, because you're so blessed to have a baby. But, understanding, especially, I think this has been a big talk lately, understanding that you can have multiple feelings simultaneously.
Yeah.
And of course, I was so thrilled to have Maverick, and we adored him. But, that coupled with no sleep and coupled with no time for one another, and that just leads to a lot of emotions. And so, again, I think it's very, while it's mostly something very commonly talked about with women, I think that it also affects men as well. Just because Wade was also mourning our past life, all the things that we could do when it was just the two of us, and the sleep that we could get. And, so there was a lot of struggle in those, really, in the first 8 or 9 months. Maverick had a colic, and he had a milk allergy, and he cried, 6 and 7 hours a day. And so there was just a lot going on. But I think that I remember this, one of the most vivid memories that I had of Wade is I was holding Maverick at one point in a recliner at my parents' house, actually, and I was rocking him, and he was crying, and I was just done. Like, I was so exhausted. I felt like everything that I could possibly give, and Wade came in, and I started really just kind of going off on him, like really fussing at him, and he said, "Listen, we are not against one another in this." And to me, that was something that stuck with me for so long, and something that I always heard when I was feeling angry, is to make sure that my anger is not going towards the wrong person, and remembering that we are truly a team in this. And so, now that we're on the other side, and Maverick is 19 months, and we're obsessed with him, and he's the coolest kid ever, and he sleeps through the night, and we have fun, and he is starting to talk, and he laughs, and it's like the greatest thing ever. I just think that it strengthened our relationship so much. Again, first and foremost, and being there for one another, and recognizing that you're a team, but also, like what we just talked about, really assuming the best of one another. You have to, because if not, that's going to cause a lot of stress and disagreement, which translates to kids. Kids feel those emotions. So
yeah, and they do. And I mean, just from then, I mean, working looks completely different. Like time management, like
time management.
it's
We're like,
crazy.
what did we used to do with all? We were the laziest human beings on the face of the planet.
We could have jumped on a podcast whenever, whatever time you wanted us to do that, but we couldn't tonight because of bedtime. So yeah, I mean, it's just balancing that, which it's important, but it's hard, and it's difficult, and
it makes you much more efficient, though, I think, because you only got a certain amount of time to do things, so you get those things done and
manage it, get it done. It's weird.
Really, just and Bryce, you've heard us say this so much at our conferences, but really just reprioritizing our life, and seeing where we only have so much time. Where is that time going to go that's going to make us the most effective and happiest version of ourselves?
Exactly.
So, y'all are amazing.
Wow.
I love being around you guys, and I love hearing your perspective on things, because it's definitely something that me being an being an upcoming parent and then pretty much a newlywed almost it's I'm working with you guys, doing, of course the technical side of things, but I'm also like learning from you guys as much as possible.
Well, and don't judge us in the heat of the moment, Bryce. No, I'm kidding.
No,
I'm teasing.
oh my
I'm
gosh.
teasing.
I never judge. I definitely love, like, one of the biggest things I love about what I do is the amount of awareness it gives me, especially going back to being a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here, we've gone in, I think, almost an hour now, and it's very clear to me, like, it's similar to my relationship with Kate. Like, Wade, you're so much, the way that you guys balance each other out, you guys, like, Hope is so fast. We've talked about this during conferences where, like, we're trying to make content and then Hope is like continuously talking and you're like, we need to find a place where we can break and make this like a 1 minute so it fits on Instagram.
Right. Because she doesn't breathe.
No, she's so fast. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she wants to say. And then Wade, you're definitely complimenting her in the way it's just like slowed down. You kind of reiterate what she said in like a way that I can process what she said.
Right. That is yes. He just provided insight.
He's got us. Yes. Nailed it.
Figured it out.
Nailed it. Yes. That's exactly. It reminds me of my relationship with Kate, because she's definitely kind of like you Hope, where she's just like, why did you not understand that? I'm like, just give me a second.
Right. Yes. This is yes. That is exactly what happens in our household for sure.
That's funny.
For sure.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Love how things come together like that. I'm curious to know, like, you guys have been doing this. How long have y'all been doing Get Your Teach On together?
About 6 years.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I think it's like 5.
5 years.
Yeah.
Seems like 20.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
I think
5-ish. 5-ish years.
Yeah. I'm sure it feels like forever.
It really does.
What other industries have you guys pulled ideas from outside of education?
We look to Passion City Church for inspiration.
Yeah, I mean,
they're like
I was a musician for a long time, and so that was my world, just the concert feel.
Yeah.
From church, from Passion City Church.
They're like a very modern
New Spring Church.
Yeah, and so we've pulled a lot of inspiration from there.
I mean, from you. I mean, what you do in your industry, like we want that look, we want that feel, we want to communicate that with our audience because we know our audience loves it.
Yeah, but even like you said, like concerts and certain artists and music artists, different artists in the music industry as well, just to kind of, we want things to be hype and fresh and cool and fun and funky. And
Disney World, we want everybody to feel special.
Disney World. I mean, as far like E-News, like we even pull from like Chris when he does all of our lives at conferences, and we have the whole red carpet, and we have teachers come up and be interviewed. Nickelodeon and their Teen Choice Awards, like we have pulled, especially people who do events, like obviously events, but in different ways. Teen Choice Awards. So, we look at all of those events and kind of just pull inspiration, draw inspiration from those, because I feel like those are always modern, they're up to date, they're hip, they're funky, they're fresh, and that's how we want education to be. Education should be up to date. It shouldn't be something that we're living in, 100 years ago. So we draw inspiration from a lot of places for sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you guys bring up, what was the church called again? It's local.
Passion.
Yeah, like Passion's okay. So a fun fact about myself that I don't really divulge to a lot of people is I'm not really religious myself. Kate is definitely, and I respect it 100%. I know I've had friends that it helps people in so many ways that I cannot say like who's right or wrong. Like, you love how you love.
Yep.
And one of the things that we've done together, we've definitely gone to Passion City together. And I love those kinds of experiences because I still go because of the entertainment. It's amazing music still.
Right.
And the message is still something that I can leave with.
Right.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, like, I still know how to listen to it with my own filter, I guess. And I don't judge anybody in the room. I know everybody,
Right.
just like myself. I'm taking this message because I need to hear it.
Yep.
And everybody else in here that comes daily just needs to hear something. And I think it's interesting that you guys brought that into how you guys go about your conferences and stuff like that, because it's a platform that a lot of teachers need to hear. A lot of people, like myself, someone who's not necessarily in the education space, still want to come in and hear the message.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And be entertained. Like,
right.
You guys hooked me with the glow in the dark classroom. Like that's all you guys had to do with me, is definitely hook me with the glow in the dark classroom. That kind of stuff is definitely, I believe, how like education should be. It shouldn't be just this, like you said, with the standards and the kids who get it right the first time and stuff like that. It should definitely be open to the people who at first aren't really susceptible to education. There's a lot of kids that probably have grown up with the idea that education goes against them.
Yep.
That it's just, it sucks that it is that way.
Yeah.
But it's being able to say, like, you're totally welcome. You're totally welcome.
Everybody's welcome, and we want everybody to feel welcome. We want to entertain, obviously, but we want to teach something too. And that's the beauty about what we do. Everybody can sit with us. Everybody is welcome. And that was the huge realization that we just had recently, like we were talking about at the beginning, of who are we trying to talk to? Are we too narrow? Do we need to broaden that? And we figured out, we need to broaden it a little bit more. So
that's a really good factor that plays into how you guys approach things, which is amazing. I think it's something that I kind of want to, and y'all are totally welcome to take it or not. I've always, my industry is sports, of course, so I'm around a lot of sports professional teams, and I wonder how susceptible you guys would be to this. So I always feel like, I haven't brought this up to a lot of sports teams, but it'd be interesting to have the team photographer be a part of a lot of business meetings, or a lot of like those, like, all the coaches in the room.
Yeah.
Because I think they're the people, again, going back to the fly on the wall again, like, I feel like being a fly on the wall, you get to see and learn things that a lot of people aren't aware of, a lot of behaviors that are happening that that the initial party isn't aware of.
Right.
And to be open to to have that conversation first is amazing, because at first you want to be like, well, I'm the coach. I know what I'm talking about. This is football.
Right.
But I think having that kind of awareness would really help people see what's happening. What do you guys feel like, as far as like teachers go? Because teachers, it's a one person amongst a sea of students.
Yeah.
What do you guys feel like would help them be more aware and attentive to their classroom?
I think, it's really interesting that you brought it up with like sports and photography, because, the photographer really captures the heart, the soul, the message of that team. And so it's actually something we were talking about again today with Shivy on our podcast is, not many educators are going to argue about old Betsy leaving the office of her duty right now. Politics aside, whether, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, I don't care. Everybody's like, peace out, Betsy. And again, it's because, she does not identify or even make an effort to understand who she is making decisions on behalf of. And, a lot of times in our classroom, students feel that too. Like, they look at a teacher who doesn't identify with them, or they don't identify with, and is not even making an effort or even trying to understand where they come from. And so one of the things that I really charge teachers with today was, if you don't know the story behind every single student sitting in your classroom, you're focused on the wrong things,
Right.
because you can't possibly educate them without knowing their story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you guys as photographers do. You capture the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, being a part of those meetings and understanding the vision and the focus and the heart and soul of what that team is and does, I think is so important. Just like as an educator, it's my job to understand the heartbeat of what makes every single child tick, their background, their, where they come from. And that is going to completely change the way that I'm able to educate them effectively.
Mm-hmm. No, that's, I didn't want to make that like a plug on the photography world with you guys. I think it's, being around so many different industries, it's interesting how aware a lot of photographers can be compared to that industry that they're, in their shooting or doing a job for. I did, at the top of COVID, I did phototherapy with some individuals and some couples actually. And I can't remember exactly where I got the idea from, but I just thought it would be interesting to, have these people take photos and learn how they're seeing the world, and coming back to me with these photos and articulating what that meant. There's definitely, like, I think there was something I watched not too long ago. It was like some lady went to like India or Africa, and she gave all her students like film cameras, and she had them just go about their life, like, just take these cameras with you, take pictures of whatever you like to do, and come back, we'll develop them. And that she learned so much about her student's life. Like, I think that kind of thing is amazing to see happen. Like, I love that my industry can do kind of, or my world can do that kind of thing with education in a way.
Yeah.
What are some creative things you see other people doing out there in the education space that you guys maybe just became aware of, or that you felt was very innovative?
I mean, I see a lot of individuals just, and it's nothing out of like shooting to the moon or whatnot, but the conversations that teachers are starting to have with their students, just tackling these difficult conversations, I think is something that's so simple, but it's been so far out of our mind to be able to do. And seeing these teachers just take it on like it's second nature to them has just really blown our minds that way. Obviously, you see the teachers who transform their rooms and create those experiences for their kids, which are awesome. And then you see teachers out there using music inside of the classroom, photography, whatever it is. I mean, we're always blown away by what we see in education, and the only way to grow is to share what you know. And that's what we love most, is following these teachers who are sharing what they know. And that, again, goes with photography or whatever it may be. If you have something that works, share it. If you have something that didn't work, share that too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean, we
don't just share the things that are Instagram worthy and the things that look good enough to be posted in a feed. Like, share the things that didn't work, because that's what we need to learn from, just as much as the good things, the things that work out.
That's right.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, guys. Well, I know that you guys have had a long day, and this is the last part of your guys' day, so I don't want to keep you guys up much longer. I appreciate you guys being on here, and love you guys, and I appreciate all the things that you guys are kind of giving to the educational community. And
thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Problem.
It was a great conversation. I learned so much about you, Bryce.
I know, learned so much about you and ourselves. That's amazing.
No, I'm trying to get better about it. At first, it was not working. I had to cut my first podcast in the middle of it. I was like, we are not going in the right direction. We are not having a conversation. I'm just like, what did you do? How did you get to do that? But yeah, no, I think these conversations have been a lot better. I've had 2 today, and it's amazing. So
awesome. Well, we're proud to be a part of one.
Yeah, we really are. And we just thank you for reaching out to us.
Yeah.
And we think the world of you, or we wouldn't have done this, obviously.
yeah.
But no, it was something that throughout the conversation, it's just great. It's just great to talk to people like you who challenge us, who
Yeah.
ask us difficult questions, but then you also listen.
Yeah.
And you make the conversation that much more rich. And
Yeah.
so for that, we're grateful too. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Well, y'all have a good night, and hopefully I see you guys soon.
Yes,
That's right.
awesome,
We'll
Bryce.
see you,
We'll
Bryce.
see you soon.
Take care.
All right, bye, guys.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
What you gonna play now?